Dear listener, welcome to my audioblog in English. I am maintaining it from southern Vietnam. Even though I am Australian citizen and citizen of Finland, English is not my mother tongue. I am not a native speaker and I am not trying to speak like a native. I am not joining words together. I may make some mistakes, grammatical mistakes, using not correct vocabulary, but I think if you speak English as well as I do here in Southeast Asia, most locals consider me as a native speaker. I have been teaching English, but on this blog I am not going to teach you anything. I am just going to talk slowly, clearly, so that you could understand me. And of course I will explain some concepts and words like sleep apnea and PAP device that you use to treat sleep apnea. About that topic I am going to talk sometime very soon, because it's a very actual thing for me right now. It means that I have difficulty sleeping, I am snoring too much. Sleeping is causing me health problems. While I sleep, I make funny sounds and it loads my heart, my lungs. I feel something very strange in my throat. There is a device called PAP or CPAP that helps me to breathe at night. It is a device that is blowing air through a mask into my nose, sometimes into mouth, but in my case I wear a mask that is blowing air into my nose. From there it's going to my throat and it's keeping my airways nice and clear. This audio blog I have decided to start for my son that is 3 years old at the moment, and I am already 59 years old, and in this current world where there are wars, there are pandemics, there are viruses, there are diseases, and there is the Vietnamese road traffic in Saigon especially. We never know what is happening. We have to be prepared at some extent to whatever is happening, especially if we have children. And I have a child. I got my first child at the age of 56. And I want to ensure that everything is all right with him when I am gone, where there is no more Tim when I am dead, speaking directly and straight about it. I can't leave him very much money, but compared to Vietnamese standard of living and average income, it is still enough. But most valuable thing that I can give to him is not money, is not house, is not diamonds. It is knowledge. Knowledge of English, knowledge of the world. Now I am coming home and I am thinking how I am going to prepare my audio blog. Varhaisaamun uutisia. Joo, kyllä tässä on mikrofoni. Miten hyvä sen testaamme juuri tässä.
Để khuyến khích các cháu có thành tích học tập tốt, cô trích tiền dành dụm của mình mua cho cô học tập, dành tặng các cháu trong ấp. Đây là việc làm thường xuyên được cô duy trì trong hơn 10 năm qua. Cô cho là
I have always been maintaining an audio blog in Finnish language because it's my mother tongue and the words come from my heart. English is my second language. For about 20 years, even more, it has been my everyday language, and my proficiency in it is maybe better than my pronunciation. But in my environment here in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam, it is sufficient, this European accent, and actually it's even better than native Australian or American accent where people speak too fast and they combine words, so that only very advanced speakers of English can understand it. I am in a situation where I have had some health problems and also visa problems. I haven't got 3 years temporary residency as I had before, but very hard to get 3 months visas, and now I am going to leave Vietnam for a week at least. Meanwhile, my wife is going to apply for 6 months social visit visa for me. After COVID, situation has become easier here, less deaths, less fatal disease. The visa rules have been tightened. Maybe the authorities have noticed that we can do well without foreigners, and we can do well without visa agents that are ripping off foreigners' money into their own pocket. Maybe they are in the process of trying to rip off those monies into government pockets. Never know. My son is 3 years old, and for him I want to leave something in English as well. That is why I decided to maintain an audio blog in English. And for technical reasons, YouTube is the best place to start them without paying high annual fees for higher quality audio storage. This quality is sufficient enough for me. Just getting an external Bluetooth microphone would change the situation into even better. Plenty of dogs here on the roads. They are building a new road here on the other side of the small canal near our house. There are lots of small canals in here in Mekong River Delta. And this time of the year, September, October, it's been flooding a lot. I can clearly notice that speaking English requires from me much more effort than speaking. August 23rd, 2022. A few days ago I decided to record more audioblogs, my thoughts also in English. I have done it in Finnish language and I am going to make them into YouTube videos also this time, as I have done before. But now I decided to be more active in English as well. English is the language that is not my mother tongue, it's the language of my son and language that I have been using in everyday life with people, including teaching English here in Vietnam, in Malaysia and in Ukraine also. This time is very sad time when hearing news from Ukraine because the country is target of Russian terrorist attacks. Government terrorists led by the President Vladimir Putin. Hopefully he'll be out of power and dead very soon. The crimes of him and his regime are so serious that death is justified punishment of them for them. My son is now 3 years old and I guess he is getting most of his intellectual inspiration from me. With me he is very nice and smart. With his mother and grandmother he speaks Vietnamese and he is more emotional, whinging and yelling all the time. Not all the time, but sometimes, and it really pisses me off. It reminds me of a nephew in Finland in the end of 1980s that I visited sometimes, and he visited me in Jyväskylä and even in Oulu once. He was quite the same with me, but then the connection with me broke for some reason and he became himself. Well, we all are worried about our children and wish the best future for them. So do I. I have been thinking a lot about the future of my son here in Vietnam. I have some finances and income in Australia, but he is not Australian citizen and he has not been registered in Australia. So I am thinking about how can I arrange my pension savings called superannuation to be delivered to him and his mother in a way that any agent, lawyers or Vietnamese government would not take 90% or whole of the money. It's not very much money, only about 3 years savings on that fund, but they have been sitting there for more than 15 years, so the sum has grown quite big. Especially here in Vietnam, you could live on it a long time. In Australia and Finland, you hardly can buy a cheap family machine, even though I'm not fully aware of prices of machines. But I guess 30,000 euros or no, okay, let's say 30,000 euros. It's too small in euros, but what I have. But yeah, that would be price of a family car, Japanese small one. Or can I get a bigger one on that sum? Anyway, if something happens to me, what will happen to my son? I even have different name in Australia. I changed my name in Finland 5 years ago, and I was thinking that in 2020, when my passport expires, I will travel to Australia and do the name change. Well, COVID-19 pandemic missed everything, and I couldn't go. And I actually even don't want to fly to Australia. I don't like traveling anymore. I used to be a traveler, a nomad, but in the back of my head was always the thought that someday I decided when I'm 55, I will settle in somewhere and I will have a family, I will have a child. I made this happen. I've even forced myself to stop traveling. And now I am attached to the place where I live very strongly. That happened in Australia too, especially in Woodstock, Queensland, in between Charters Towers and Woodstock. I really liked that place and I wanted to stay at home in my garden. In Cairns it was a little bit different situation. There were neighbors too near. It was too socially active environment with people that were not really my people. Actually the same situation is here. I am living close to my wife's family and in a village where there are people everywhere. Even on Sunday morning, 5 a.m., it's not totally quiet and isolated environment. On 29th October, I need to travel to Cambodia, Phnom Penh, in order to solve my visa problems. I tried to extend my 3 years temporary residency card that expired on May last year when my Finnish passport expired. But it was extremely hard to get any visa after that. They gave me 3 months social visit visa and they extended it by another 3 months after my wife presented doctor's letter about my health condition. I was lucky, having been riding in a car for a long time, and on a car my blood pressure gets higher, so doctor's letter became more impressive. But now in October my wife couldn't extend that 3-month visa. I think she even didn't present doctor's paper. She just did what she was asked to, not using her own brain. And that really pisses me off. in her activities. Her mindset is slave's mindset in front of authorities, not in front of me that much, unfortunately, but that was a joke. But in front of authorities, including doctors. And that's how they want to bring up people here in Finland, here in Vietnam. Unlike in Finland, where, for example, everyone has the right to know about their medical treatments, names of their medicine that they are taking, so they are able to Google, do internet searches for those products, but not here. Here they give you a bag of pills, usually different colors, different shapes, that are mostly mild paracetamol or derivatives. So different brands and colors containing paracetamol derivatives, yes. And doctors give some instructions on paper in Vietnamese, but I guess not a proper diagnosis, only name of the disease and symptoms. Well, I exactly don't know because I cannot even read Vietnamese. I cannot understand Vietnamese. I just posted on Facebook that my Ukrainian is much better than my Vietnamese, and that's very true. So anyway, I insisted that it's not so easy and simple that I just go away with my social visit visa. That was not multi-entry, it was a single entry visa, but the immigration people just advised my wife that I should leave the country and come back, and after that they will give me 2 years visa. I learned from a Facebook group that it's a single entry visa and I need to get another visa in order to come back. And wife has traveled already twice to our local province capital in order to renew, get me a new visa and sort out the problem, and once to Ho Chi Minh City to immigration to prepare paperwork, so that when I go to overseas she can prepare those papers and they can prepare the papers and send to me. It means that I may have to be away for a week or even 2. Otherwise it would be fun, but not in this situation where I have my son. They have loudspeakers outside and they start broadcasting local news at 5 a.m. Now I am going to a small bridge and continue doing some Tai Chi, Qicong movements, looking at the starry sky above me and water under in front of me. Even though it's still dark, I can see some shapes of the trees and reflection of the sky from water. I am back from previous talking. I was doing my third or fourth time Tai Chi, Qicong, yoga kind of movements, rotating movements, rotating with my hands, making circle and rotating my body to help the internal organs to work better. My fingers are so sweaty, my sweat is making it hard to use this tiny touch screen of my phone. I have bought the smallest phone to be my second phone, Android 6, already how many years old? I think this operating system is more than 10 years old. Anyway, I just wanted to get the phone for GPS tracking, lightweight enough to carry with me when I am doing this exercise. I am doing Nordic walking now. I have two sticks, colorful clothes to push myself forward using my legs and arms. This should strengthen my lungs and heart area that have had problems since at least May this year when I had corona infection, Omicron variant. I even thought I am dying, but now I have discovered, with the help of not only doctors but with many friends and relatives in Finland, discover possible causes of several symptoms. I started exercising in the beginning of September. Soon, 2 months ago, I have been doing my early morning walks. At first without these trekking poles, but now with 2 trekking poles that I use for Nordic walking. They are quite heavy on purpose, and I guess later on when I have came back, hopefully I have came back to Vietnam, I will make them even heavier so I can use them for exercise. Leaning on them when rotating my body to the left and to the right, so my kidneys and liver can get some massage. That's what I have learned from yoga lessons. Thank you, James Bryan in Cairns, Queensland, Australia, or are you now in Sunshine Coast? I guess you are. So James was my first yoga teacher in 2009, and I have to thank Nancy, my ex-wife, who arranged me to go to yoga classes. She even joined me just out of solidarity. I don't think she was not so excited about yoga as I was. I have been doing yoga on and off since those times, but teachings that I have heard from several yoga teachers, including Jani Jaatinen in Kota Kinabalu, Borneo Island, Malaysia. I went to Jani's lessons for about a month, I guess, in 2014, after I had left Australia. That was the first place where I was thinking of living in. I wanted to check out the place. So nothing especially attractive happened, and I decided to go to Vietnam. That was a very scary place for me in my thoughts, full of criminals and murderers, thieves. There are plenty of them, maybe not murderers, but thieves especially. But I have learned to live with them. Well, sometimes they are still stealing from me, ripping off, especially visa agents. They are really... I don't say what they are. Well, I do about 2.5 miles during 90 minutes in the mornings, and it includes, as I told, Nordic walking, stretching, Tai Chi, yoga, poses. I am scaring a dog back to its yard. I can smell something very nice, jasmine flower or smelly flowers. I have tried to ask what they are so I could plant them in my garden too. To get a perfume like smell, aroma. I remember in Singapore, after I had moved from Finland, Helsinki, Finland to Singapore in the end of January 2002, 22 years ago, how I was walking in the nearby park on my first evening and night there, and the smell of Pandanus amarylifolius was smelling there, and I really enjoyed the humid warm air after minus 27 degrees frost in Helsinki, Vuosaari, Merilastilantie 6A. Can't remember the number. No, Merilastilantie 11, apartment 6. That I got in 1999 October, and I made it very nice. I made it a home that looked like me, but then only 2 years later I started dismantling the whole structure, because I was told that our company will be moved to Singapore and I wouldn't find a job in Finland. I had pretty well paid job in Finland on IT. My career was not very high, lowest level programmer, coder that was on IT industry, and I used to be IT manager on government organizations and the IT guy that everybody were asking questions when they wanted to know something. But then, well, I continued that work in Singapore, kind of system administrator. But then in Australia I had a long break because of visa issues, and then I never could get a satisfactory job. That was one of the reasons, and maybe main reason, for my divorce in 2007, 2009, 2010, then 2010 officially, 2009 I left home, because I didn't like my neighbors, I didn't like the people that I met, and I didn't like my job. I didn't like the work that I was doing on maintaining an advertisement targeted website, wrongdiagnosis.com, that was set up just to collect money for the owners, and they really managed to earn a fortune during that website. We were using special techniques of data mining. On the other hand, I envy the owner. He was very smart in programming and logical thinking, so he managed to develop a system that was mining data from free sources and combining it into sentences that attracted search results and users clicking the advertisements. Now I am coming back home and going to sleep 1 or 2 hours more until my son comes and wakes me up saying, "Tim, sky is blue, wake up!" That's what he tends to finish. But when I speak with people, I think it's quite okay. I can communicate very well in English with people, except for some Australians that speak unclear, so that I hardly can understand them. And British as well.